Good afternoon, everyone. And we're back. Not only are we back in the podcast, but college football is back tonight. Actually, as we hinted earlier on the podcast, as Marshall and I were joined by Corey Thorpe of NAIA football. There's NAIA football tonight, so there's Thursday night football. Cue the Pentatonics, but we're excited. I'm Omar, of course, and Jackson joins me. Jackson, any opening thoughts for this opening week 0?
Man, I can't wait. We've got a HBCU college game day that is not Jackson State for once. We've got a lot of excitement this weekend. Take your pick of whether you're like Power 5 football, Group of 5 football, FCS football. You've got all of it this weekend. So really, it really hits all the bases.
And also D2 football, as the aptly named Big Cat Classic in Jacksonville. You got Florida Memorial University, who restarted their program in the spring last year after a long hiatus, and Edward Waters of Jacksonville playing in the Big Cat Classic. And no, it is not named after a certain podcaster of Barstool. Both schools have cat nicknames. That is the reason for it.
Hey, that is something I did not know. So that's a first.
So just to introduce Hardware Podcast again, some of you guys that watched in the spring and the fall last year, we know we do the award races, and we have a very light slate this week, which means plenty of opportunity for some people to have the eyes of the country. Well, certain games, of course, and certain networks will have most of the country on a lot of these games. Like there will be a lot of eyes on Nebraska, Illinois. It might be one of the most watched games, I think, this year. That's a hot take just because the slate is so light. Might be one of the most watched games this year. You also got national TV, like we mentioned, Hawaii, UCLA at 3:30 on ESPN. One of only 3 games on at that time, and pretty much the whole second half will be exclusively the only game on. Of course, Jackson mentioned the HBCU College Game Day, the MEAC SWAC Challenge between North Carolina Central and Alcorn State, the three-time defending two-time defending SWAC champs, and they were also won the SWAC in 2015. So definitely a power there with Fred McNair at coach.
Omar, it would not be a true college football Saturday if we didn't have some late night football. We've also got Southern Utah, San Jose State. I love that 10 p.m. Eastern time kickoff on CBS Sports Network. I'm excited to see that one too. Something to fall asleep to. It's not Hawaii, but something.
Yeah, and all due respect to Southern Utah, I think that game will not be that close because San Jose State is geared for defending their first Mountain West title. They got a lot of people returning, and I know our friend of the podcast, Scott from Western College Football Talk, is very thrilled about this team.
He is still getting the pancake syrup stains off of his San Jose State sweatshirt when he tackled the busboy. Rest in peace to him. But man, I'm sure he's going to be pumped as well. Man, I'd love to watch that game with Scott.
Yeah, I know too. Especially like my dad, huge San Jose State fan. I remember watching the 06 New Mexico Bowl in our man cave, in my dad's man cave, and just how thrilled he was over the New Mexico Bowl. Like I didn't understand it at the time, so I celebrated with him. But I come to understand the plight of the program in the few years, or I guess in the coming years. San Jose State, will take what they can get, really. And I'm glad they're back, competitive and on top, climbing the mountain, as Scott would say. From his corner office in Las Vegas. But
hey, I'm loving those 2-minute videos he's putting out on Twitter. Go give him a follow if you don't already. But
we'll put it in there, Western CFB Talk, and we're sure to have him on the podcast again at some point this season. But starting off with the slate of games, again, like we said, a very light slate. I think 5 FBS games in total, and the first game of the day, just Nebraska, Illinois, and Jackson. I'm not sure if you had anyone on this list, on this game to look out for the Heisman.
I do have someone that I am under no impression that he is going to be on any Heisman watch list or by far win the Heisman, but I do want to bring attention to him. Illinois linebacker Jake Hanson. Last year, he had 10 in his career at Illinois, 10 forced fumbles, third most in program history, most currently among anyone in the FBS. He is the only current FBS player right now with 200 tackles, 25 of them tackles for loss. as well as 10 forced fumbles. Talk about production, 7 double-digit sack performances. That's not right. Double-digit tackle performances, rather. It's the number 3 tackling grade in the nation, according to PFF College. He's on a handful of award watch lists. Jake Hanson, a name to watch if you're tuning into Fox this noon.
So that game will be at 1:00. Not exactly a big noon kickoff, a big late afternoon kickoff. Yeah, big 1 p.m. kickoff. Love the branding. I'm not sure. I'm just kidding. I'm indifferent towards it. I have 2 guys for that game, one for each team to look out for in terms of the Heisman race. First, I'm going to go out with a guy that's been maligned by by a lot of college football fans, but Adrian Martinez. Really good dual threat quarterback that seems like he's been there forever out with Scott Frost's system out in Nebraska. But last year in the shortened season, 521 rushing yards, 5.7 yards attempt. That's with sacks, 7 touchdowns. Not really all that great passing ball. Not really great numbers passing the ball in 8 games with only 1,055 yards. 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. But he split time with Luke McCaffrey. Now Luke McCaffrey's gone. This is Adrian, I almost called him Taylor Martinez. This is Adrian Martinez's time to shine. And really the eyes of the nation will be out there. Nebraska fans are going to show out for that game, and Nebraska's still a brand name. They're still a blue blood, despite their struggles. For Illinois, for those of you that aren't aware, Brett Bielema is taking over that program from Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith I think he did a solid job with that program, given what he was, what their hand is out there in Champaign. But Brett Bielema, he loves to run the ball. And a guy I like is Chase Brown, a guy last year who had 540 rushing yards in 8 games, averaged 5 yards a carry with 3 touchdowns. And I think just those numbers already in last year's scheme, which wasn't really that running back friendly, I guess, or it was running back friendly, but that a Bielema scheme is going to be very running back friendly because you think of guys like Monte Ball, who else? Corey Clement. The list goes on in terms of Wisconsin running backs and just that system. So I think those 2 guys are guys to look out for in that game. And I think that will be the most watched game of this week and one of the most watched games of the season, really.
Hey, everyone's excited for college football and hungry to see it. So if it's Nebraska, Illinois, so be it. If that's what they're hungry for, give it to them.
Yeah, I think the next game that's on, people are really less hungry. I know out in the Northeast, they're probably hungry for this one at UConn because their team hasn't played since 2019. A lot of anticipation, but we have UConn Fresno State, and can you guess who's on the call for that one, Jackson?
Is it friend of the podcast, Rich Waltz?
Friend of the podcast, Rich Waltz. I swear we need a bingo card every time we mention the man's name. He's probably tired of me mentioning it on his mentions. But we love Rich Waltz here, and that game is already like the number 2 game, in my opinion, of the weekend because he is on the mic. But there's a couple guys.
Raises it up on my board to watch. Might even beat out a couple NFL preseason games on there. But something that I didn't realize, there are UConn fans out there, Omar?
I'm not going to go into that because this is a nice segue for me to mention that the guy that I have for UConn to watch out for, I actually played youth football with him. And I'm not sure if he remembers me, but Kevin Mensah, a fellow alumni of the Worcester Cowboys, had a great year despite all the circumstances at UConn, had over 1,013 yards and 9 touchdowns. And I expect the same out of Mensah this year to just like a bigger load. And really, with a defense that struggled in 2019, I really think they're going to be leaning on the run game out there in stores in Hartford, Connecticut, just to give the defense a rest. So Kevin Mensah, fellow Worcester Cowboys alumni, I think he'll do well this year. And if I had to choose one UConn player for a Heisman candidacy, it would be Kevin Mensah.
I mean, Kevin might have sat in the exact same spot on the bench when he was going to sit down and you were getting up to go to special teams. So,
that's a good point. But Kevin did it all out in my 1 year playing before I moved to New Mexico. He did it all. He was a great linebacker. And that's what I remember as a linebacker on that team. But enough hearing about Kid Omar. Going on to Fresno State, this is a team that really they've been disappointed the past couple years after near near New Year's Six appearance in 2018. They were pretty much a UCF loss away from making the New Year's Six. If you don't remember in 2018 when UCF had that furious comeback in the AAC championship game, Fresno State was so close. Fresno State was so close. They have a couple guys that I like. I'm going to start off with the quarterback, Jake Haener. The Heisman has become an exclusively quarterback award. But Fresno State averaged 356 yards a game passing last year. Insane numbers. Jake Haener was the quarterback, 2,021 yards in 6 games, 14 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns as well. So definitely the top dog, no pun intended, out there in Fresno for Heisman consideration. And also, too, a little blast from the past. Another guy I have is Ronnie Rivers, who just going back in time, 2018 Las Vegas Bowl. Just remember watching that game, and I saw the roster, and I was surprised to see Ronnie Rivers still there. I mean, the man is still there forever. But he had 212 yards in that game against Herm Edwards' Arizona State squad. Really good running back. He had 507 yards in those 6 games last year, and in the year before in 2019, he had 899 yards and 13 touchdowns. So, I mean, especially late in the game when Fresno State's trying to run out the clock, as this is a 27.5-point spread, expect to see a big day with Ronnie Rivers running the ball downhill for the Bulldogs.
Man, I completely unrelated. I'm getting goosebumps. Just we're talking about like actual football games that are about to be played and that other people are watching too, not just us with the FCS last spring. But man, I can't wait for this season. This is awesome talking about actual games. Moving on to the next game after Fresno State. Good point. I can't wait to see that game. The next one we have on our list, Hawaii at UCLA. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. A guy I want to bring attention to, Hawaii running back Calvin Turner. Congrats to Calvin. He was just named to the Reese's Senior Bowl watch list, so definitely a name to remember come next April. He is a Jacksonville University grad transfer. Jacksonville University played quarterback when he transferred to Hawaii. He switched to running back, 331 rush yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. But Omar, you know I'm a sucker for running backs who can catch the football. And as Maurice Jones-Drew says, if you're a running back and you can't catch, then you can't play. He also had 546 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in the air. So that's awesome for Calvin Turner. He really knows the passing game very well, obviously being a former quarterback. He actually led Hawaii in reception touchdowns. Sounds kind of like Alvin Kamara leading the Saints last year and receiving touchdowns. But, man, he's got it all. He's also got kickoff return yards. He led the team in all-purpose yards. He does it all. So be watching out for Calvin Turner on ESPN.
And from last podcast that Jackson and I are crazy about Calvin Turner for our Group of 5 Heisman watch. And if he doesn't win the Heisman, I'm going to say it right here in this podcast. I think that he wins the Paul Hornung Award for most versatile player in college because he does it all. Like, he literally does it all for this offense: throws, runs, passes. What a weapon for Todd Graham's offense out in Hawaii. But I think on a bigger scale, if we're looking for the most legitimate Heisman candidate playing this week is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR. And this man, he's been playing for 3 years, 18, 19, and 20 underneath Chip Kelly's offense out in Oregon. I mean, holy crap, out of UCLA. It's not 2011. It's not 2011. Out of UCLA.
Are you sure he's not with the Eagles?
Yeah, not or the Niners, man. Geez, those were some fun years. That was a fun year. I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, DTR out there. He's really had great numbers all around. 21 passing touchdowns in 2019. He had 306 rushing yards and 1,120 passing yards last year. Really, and UCLA's showing flashes. I think this year's year they can put things together and really contend in the Pac-12 South. Like, they almost beat USC. They almost beat Stanford. They almost beat Oregon, all 1-score losses. Dorian Thompson-Robinson too. In the first 2 weeks, this is going to be huge for UCLA to really make a surge in the rankings, because not only do they have Hawaii in week 0 to really pass that eye test, the next week they have LSU at the Rose Bowl. So out of all the FBS players playing this weekend, he has the best first 2-game stretch out of all of them, especially against the LSU, with LSU ranked 16th in the AP poll, which I'm not really sure why, to be honest with you. I mean, LSU didn't show much last year, but I think DTR can really make a statement this weekend and next.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm excited to see DTR. He'll be fun to watch. Man, this is right back in your home turf of where you grew up. What are your thoughts on UTEP and MSU?
So I think this one's one of the more interesting games this weekend. And I know you guys are gonna think I'm crazy for saying this, but I think it's because of UTEP, because UTEP last year showed some flashes. If you weren't paying attention, they were really competitive in Conference USA. They weren't just a doormat like they had been in the past few years. They beat Louisiana Monroe. They didn't just skate by them. They blew them out 30-6. And that was their first non-conference win that wasn't against New Mexico or New Mexico State in forever. Their first non-conference FBS win in a very long time. There's three guys. They have probably one of the best triplet combinations in all of FBS, one of the more underrated at least. At quarterback, you have Gavin Hardison, who threw for 1,419 yards in 7 games. He missed the last game, and it might sound crazy, but if he makes the last game, then I think UTEP goes bowling at 4-4 because they lost to North Texas. They fell behind by 9 late in the game, and they were not able to really break that deficit and ended up losing. North Texas goes to the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Cameron Peoples runs all over them. The rest is history. But Gavin Hardison, a great pocket passer, something that they've been missing because we all know about Aaron Jones out at UTEP, really world-beating running back out there, and now he's with the Packers. You know how great he was in college. So they have Hardison, who might be the missing piece. They also have Jacob Cowing, a receiver who had 691 yards in 8 games, 3 touchdowns, 17 yards a catch. Deion Hankins, 592 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. 4.9 yards a carry. So if anyone on UTEP, and I know the odds are very, very low of any of these guys breaking the Heisman race, but we're hardware for a reason. I think those guys have the best chance, all 3 of them. It's like pick which one. I'm excited for what UTEP does. I think they can be competitive in Conference USA. Moving on to New Mexico State. For those of you that watched our spring editions of hardware, you know that it was kind of tough sledding for New Mexico State in the spring. But there's hope somewhere for the Aggies out in Las Cruces. If I had to pick a guy for New Mexico State, it would be, I'm going to go with the dark horse, Omar Samuels, a Michigan transfer at running back. And with their system out there, you know, they've produced great running backs. Larry Rose III, Jason Huntley, who is he still on the Lions, Jackson? I don't know if he's still on the Lions. I know he was drafted by them.
That's a good question. I am not sure.
Yeah, but while you look that up, yeah, so they had those 2 guys at running back. Omari Samuels didn't really find playing time, but he was a 29th ranked recruit according to Phil Steele in his recruiting class, and that's just talent that really doesn't get to New Mexico State often, really. So look for him out there. Didn't really have much great college stats. He has 79 yards in 2 years under Jim Harbaugh, but that's a guy for New Mexico State. If we had to choose a Heisman candidate, then he would be that guy. But sorry.
Jason Hartley is currently on the Philadelphia Eagles right now. So
Okay.
he was a practice squad player for the Lions last year. I'm sure he's getting plenty of preseason reps right now with the Eagles.
I mean, I love Huntley for just because of the back-to-back kickoff return touchdowns in the Arizona Bowl, an absolutely electric moment. That game will be at 8:00, I believe. That one's not nationally televised as it's a New Mexico State home game. It will be on regional television on Valley Sports Arizona. So that's good for building the regional footprint of that Aggies program. But it's the biggest rivalry we got this weekend. We got the war on I-10, the war for the shovel. So we'll see who comes out with that shovel. I got a feeling it's going to be UTEP, though.
Man, I'm surprised that you're saying that's the biggest rivalry when you consider Eastern Illinois and Indiana State. That dates back to 1901.
Geez, well, when you say that, I don't know. I guess I'm going to hear from the Ohio Valley Conference fans. I'm not well versed in their rivalries, I guess. That's all it comes down to.
Who would have thought I would be the one that brought that up? Usually you're the one that brings up the random rivalries. So who would have thought?
Yeah, I guess it's opposite day too, because
yeah,
you know, we were talking about this before.
Power 5 guys.
Yeah.
I brought up a group of 5 guys. It's opposite day. So
really strange things happening at hardware too. So one more FBS game. I know you had a few guys for San Jose State for your Heisman watch in this late night game.
So many San Jose State guys, I just couldn't pick one. Running back Tyler Nevins averaged almost 8 yards a carry last year. Only 515 yards and 5 scores, but man, something to watch out for. Nick Starkel, the Texas A&M and Arkansas former quarterback, now in his 6th year. Last year had 64.2% completion rate, 16 touchdowns. And he's being guarded by left tackle Jack Snyder. He's got real NFL potential. On the opposite side of the ball, Cade Hall, the defensive end. He was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year and a 2nd nationally in sacks per game last year. So Tyler Nevins, Nick Starkel, Cade Hall, and maybe even Jack Snyder, all names you'll hear later.
I mean, all good names. And I have to mention this every time we mention Nick Starkel, fellow Justin Bieber fan, Nick Starkel. But that one should be an exciting one too. And I guess to kick off, I guess we're gonna cascade back down with the Walter Payton. To start off with our Walter Payton watch, I'm gonna start off, and Buck Buchanan for that matter. I'm gonna start off with Justin Miller of Southern Utah, who had 1,713 passing yards in 6 games and 15 touchdowns. Of course, the Hawks, I think they're the Thunderhawks. I think the Thunderhawks are playing from behind a lot in the Big Sky, playing Weber State and Idaho, really quality teams. But I think Miller is going to play from behind a good amount in this game, so we'll accumulate a lot of passing numbers. There was a linebacker that we struggled to pronounce last spring that I'm going to pull up really quick. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Maybe I'll just go first name. I'm sure Jackson remembers, and oh, do you remember La Akea Kaho Ohano Hano Davis? Do you remember reading that name?
Is he the Clemson quarterback?
No. I remember you mentioning someone's name who was hard to pronounce on Southern Utah and at linebacker for Buck Buchanan, but
I do not remember that name, but I'm sure we talked about we touched on a lot of guys last year.
I'm gonna struggle through this again. La Akea Kaho Ohano Hano Davis had 7 sacks and 9 TFLs and 57 tackles. So he might give Nevins and Starkel a hard time, and just have him on your Buck Buchanan watch list. And I'm sure that helps too. Having a national TV appearance would help with the Buck Buchanan and Walter Payton races.
Oh, it'll definitely help them for sure. Another game that we're looking forward to, and we briefly mentioned before, Eastern Illinois, Indiana State. Omar, do you have anyone from that game you wanted to bring attention to?
It was tough. It was tough, and I'm sure it was tough for you too. It was tough finding guys, really, because these programs really struggled, whether it be 2019 for Indiana State or the spring season for Eastern Illinois, as they went 1-5. But I'm gonna go with Michael Thomas, and I'm not talking slant boy. I'm just kidding. I hate that joke. I think it's stupid. As a corner, it is so hard to defend slants, but I think it's stupid that they make the joke.
The same people that make the slant boy jokes are the same people that make the Chargers don't have any fans jokes. They're both old. They're both not true.
Exactly. I mean, it's like it's a tired act. I mean, maybe the Chargers, when the Chargers are kind of the little brother in the city at the moment, but
I mean, they're the little brother, but they've got some dedicated fans. Seriously,
yeah.
I've Chargers fans before. They're good.
I mean, in San Diego, in San Diego,
yeah.
But yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd agree with that. But Michael Thomas in 2020 in the spring season, he had, Indiana State. So he had in 2019, my mistake. He had 73 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 interceptions. So really a defensive back that's all over the field. That's a guy to watch out for. And that game was on ESPN Plus, I believe, in the afternoon. Jackson, did you have anyone from either school?
I had 2 Eastern Illinois guys, ironically. It truly is opposite day. I've got Eastern Illinois wide receiver and kick returner Matt Judd. He is 6'2", 185. He's had 5 starts at receiver, but what's most impressive to me is that he is 13th in the NCAA in kick return average at 24.8. So he can return the ball pretty darn well, and he's had so much time to mature at the receiver position. I think we'll see an improvement from Matt Judd there. I've also got for Buck Buchanan, Eastern Illinois linebacker Jason Johnson, 2020 first team Ohio Valley Conference linebacker. double-digit tackles in 4 of 6 games. As a freshman in 2019, he was the leading tackler in the last 5 games. And to do that as a freshman near the end of the season really shows improvement. I'm excited to see what Jason Johnson does.
I'm excited too, and in waiting for the big game, what we're gonna mention next, for the MEAC SWAC Challenge, I'll be sure to be looking at that game a bit too. And you never know, as the line for Hawaii UCLA is at 17.5 points. There's people are expecting that one to not be as competitive. Just switch on to ESPN Plus and watch Indiana State, Eastern Illinois. I think that one's at 3:30 on ESPN Plus as well. And as Jackson mentioned, a tried and true rivalry, something I didn't even know, a tried and true rivalry out there in the Midwest.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see that one, but I think we're all most excited for Alcorn State NC Central College game day. It's going to be there. Of course, Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit are going to be on the call. It's going to be like any other ABC Saturday night. At least that's what I've read online. So hopefully they stay true to that crew. Man, I'm excited to see that game. And main name to watch for me is NC Central defensive back Steven Stokes. Started every game in 2019, had 62 tackles, 6 passes defended, 2 interceptions. Steven Stokes is a guy that hopefully can make an impact in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And he was on the watch list for the Black College Hall of Fame, Black College Football Hall of Fame Player of the Year. Another guy that was on that watch list, and I just love this man's name, LeCharles Pringle for Alcorn State. And if you watched the Celebration Bowl in 2019, you know that this man was all over the place. He had 6 catches in that game on ABC, returned a punt as well. But just, I mean, absolutely a home run threat, 48 catches, 828 yards, and 14 touchdowns. So nearly a third of his catches went for touchdowns. Expect him to be used more in the offense this year. And expect really a LeCharles Pringle coming out party. I mean, he's gonna leave NC Central fans salty. I hate to use a Pringle pun, but look out this Saturday for LeCharles Pringle. On a lesser note, also look out for the quarterback for NC Central, Davius Richard. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but Davis Richard is a dual threat, 245 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns in 2019, 2020 passing yards, and 12 touchdowns. And he also had a punt for 40 yards. So really a guy that does it all. And he should have a lot of work to do against Alcorn State. But both teams are rusty, having sat out of the 2020 spring season. So, but again, the tradition and pageantry will all be there in Atlanta for the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And it's just great that College Game Day is going to be out there. But for those of you watching the game at 7:30 on ESPN, it's not going to be all about the bands. Like they can ball. And Jackson and I we know about the Hall of Famers, the numerous Hall of Famers that have come from the HBCUs. And even today, Darius Leonard. I mean, big dog out of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I know so many names, and Steve Wyche is one of the biggest advocates in the NFL world for HBCUs. Man, he brought up a statistic that I think says a lot. In the state of South Carolina, of the 5 Hall of Famers that are from colleges there, 1 from South Carolina and Clemson, and 4 from South Carolina State. So it just says a lot about what these schools contribute.
Exactly. I think Donnie Shell was the latest. I think I saw something about him today. I think Donnie Shell might be the latest. I forget. I don't know who the others are. I'm not even going to try to name it. But, just you look at the history of the game, HBCUs and their contributions. I mean, really a lot. And Alcorn State, of course, just a reminder, you see that school, Steve McNair, the late, great Steve McNair, his brother Fred coaches that team. So 7:30 on ESPN should be a solid game. The line right now is at minus 14 Alcorn State. Alcorn State's a 14-point favorite. So they're really riding hard on the defending SWAC champs in that one. And it's really the first game it's the first fall game, or sorry, let me reword this. It's the first MEAC SWAC challenge in the new look MEAC after the SWAC took Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M. So that's just another headline to be looking out for in that game.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see how it looks, excited to get some attention to it. And hey, I wouldn't be opposed if they kept this as a week 0 thing to get more attention to it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point because in the past it's been on Labor Day Sunday or Labor Day Eve. And I'm not sure what the ratings were like then. I tended to believe that day was like more of an HBCU day because you had that game and you had the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic that just sprang up in Tom Benson Stadium in Canton, and that they'll be playing that one too on Labor Day Sunday as well. And then now you have the Orange Blossom Classic, which if you know college football history, if you've read Breaking the Line, which I'm not sure if I brought it with me out here in Georgia, I'd flash it on camera, but Breaking the Line about the 1968 college football season with Florida A&M and Grambling. The Orange Blossom Classic was a yearly showcase at the end of the year with Florida A&M, yearly showcase, and they're bringing it back as a kickoff game. And who's there to play this year? None other but Deion Sanders. So I tend to believe that this might stay as a week 0 thing, but I expect to see more games on Sundays for the HBCUs.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm excited for all, but man, that's about it that I can think of. You got any final notes?
Geez, I'm muted. No, I really don't. I'm just excited to see these games too, and especially Hawaii. It's good to see them back in week 0. Like I'm gonna say now take the -7, take the 17.5 line for Hawaii, making the spread because I don't think that UCLA is 17.5 points better than Hawaii, especially with Hawaii's offense. So I think that's the most trusty line of this weekend. UTEP too. UTEP might be a sleeper team. It's been too long since it's been too long since they won a bowl. I think their last bowl win was 1967. So I mean, they'll be looking to go to a bowl and actually win it.
Yeah, hopefully so. So yeah, man. Well, I'm excited for a good week of college football, man. I'm gonna need to buy a couple more TVs between the NFL preseason wrapping up, college football getting started. It's gonna be a lot going on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely, and it's just crazy that it's back. It's crazy. I'm getting chills, and actually being able to go to some games. It'll be nice.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped for it. So, and that's it for me. Happy National Dog Day to our dog Grunky. He was a guest on the podcast we recorded just before this with all his whining, so you can hear him right now. So, yeah, man. But that's about it. So enjoy your college football weekend.
Yeah, same to you, Jackson, and same to everyone else listening. And until next time, peace, love, and soul, everyone.